Maybe this is just what it's like to finally love yourself after 28 years on this planet. One of the most vivid life lessons I can remember. I was sitting on a bench in our driveway when I was in high school, basketball between my legs. I had just been shooting around, and like every shot I was taking, the basketball kept missing. Whether it bounced off the back of the rim or go off to the right, it felt like I forgot how to shoot a basketball. And it was one of the hardest times of my life. Now, it might sound dramatic, but to me back then, basketball was my life. I practiced every day. I was part of 2 different teams. I played AAU. To me, basketball was the thing that I loved doing the most. And suddenly it had been taken away. And I was a scrawny kid. I wasn't great at getting to the basket. I didn't have great physicality, but I was fast and I could shoot. So no matter what team I joined, even if I was physically the least impressive person there, I could shoot the basketball better than almost anyone else, and so I always got playing time. So in other words, my whole identity had been taken away when I lost the ability to shoot. And I remember that confidence started to affect other areas of my life too. Like, I used to play soccer recreationally, much less serious than basketball, but because I had good coordination and I was fast, I was the goalie. And usually I would only let up a couple goals a game, if even that. But suddenly it felt like I just couldn't catch the ball anymore and everything was going into the net. But on that day, as I sat in the driveway, my dad came out and he watched me shoot. What he told me was that he saw a hitch in my shot. That for some reason, when I was bringing the ball up, I was pushing it toward the basket as if I was trying to control it to go in instead of just releasing. By trying to control where the basketball was going, by trying to push it to exactly where I wanted it to go, I was actually missing more shots than if I just trusted in the muscle memory I had built over thousands and thousands of repetitions. In other words, by trying to get more control, I was actually losing it. I remember this lesson not because it's specific to basketball, although that was such a revelation to me at the time and helped me rehabilitate my shot, but because it's applicable to so much more of our life than just sports. The more that we try to control an outcome we don't control, the easier it slips away. When you're playing basketball, just like anything else in life, there's a set of what you can control. In basketball, it's how you hold the ball, how you bring it up, how you let go. But once it's out of your hands, it's out of your control. You just have to hope that the muscle memory of doing that for all of those repetitions will have paid off so that the ball knows how to get into the hoop when it comes out of your fingers. But you can't change its trajectory once it's out there. And the same is true of life. We control ourselves. We control the actions that we take, but once it's out there, whether it's an outfit or a piece of art, something that we create or some perception that we put into the world, it's out there and we can't control where it goes from there. I don't know if this is something that was innate or was developed at some point in my life, but I've always been kind of a people pleaser. I've always had this feeling that if I just serve others and make others happy, then I, by extension, will become happy myself. This led to an over-reliance on other people's opinions, because what that means is if I do something that people are unhappy about, if I disappoint people or I'm not what people expected, then they're going to disapprove of me and then I'm not going to be happy. I'm placing my happiness in other people's hands instead of in my own. I'm trying to control the outcome of how other people feel by my own actions, which we all know just doesn't work. I used to make art that was very focused on self-help, even when I had very little actual life experience. I was homeschooled, I was privileged to go to a good college, I got a corporate job. I didn't have the life experience to be talking about self-improvement or steps to better your life. But because I thought that's what would be helpful, that's what I talked about until I burned out. So much of my life has been about worrying about other people's perceptions or working hard to try to earn their appreciation so that in turn I could feel better about myself. What I've started to do in my late 20s is to flip that around, to try to control myself and to feel better about myself first so that I can better help other people out of the kindness of my own joy. Which means when I realize that my gender identity is something that will inherently not make sense to a lot of people or will even piss some people off, I'm still going to be loud and proud about my identity. When things about me don't make sense to other people, things that I would have previously suppressed, I'm going to shout those out into the world and not worry about what happens once they're out there. I've learned to film and to make art about my life in a way that's fulfilling to me first, before I put it out into the world, not worrying about who's going to see it or what the reaction will be. And now that I'm just controlling what's in my little circle of control, I feel so much more at peace. When I started my gender exploration journey, I had a lot of conceptions around what different gender identities should look like. I had conceptions around what I needed to do to pass as non-binary, like dress androgynously, feminize my body and myself in certain ways, and generally just look a lot less masculine. In fact, I had the goal that when I would go out, people would not assume my pronouns because they wouldn't know which side to assume. But that's someone else's control. What other people see when they look at me is based off of their own experiences, and that's up to them. What I control is how I present myself and what I see when I look at myself. Other people might not look like the fact that I have painted nails or that I shave my legs or that I have mini bangs and immediately clock me as non-binary. In fact, most people still assume male pronouns when I go out in public, even though I've made all of these changes that, to me, I would never have made if I was in kind of full people pleaser mode a few years ago. When I see these things, when I do these things, when I take care of myself in this way, I feel good about myself. I feel like I am affirming my own internal gender identity, regardless of what anybody else sees. In that way, I've learned to enjoy the process of self-discovery and gender exploration rather than working toward a certain outcome. In how I dress, how I accessorize myself, how I take care of myself in a way that feels affirming, even if they don't all add up to full androgyny. This may not be how I present myself forever. I'll probably change up my hair at some point. My skincare routine might be different. I might try different things about my body or my presentation that right now feel uncomfortable or scary. And I will enjoy all of those steps as they come. But for now, I'm comfortable where I am in the journey because I'm not worried about how other people are seeing me. It took probably a month to really start to break the hitch that I had in my shot. I started videoing my shooting sessions and I saw it. The hitch was there, just like Ben Simmons or Markelle Fultz developed when they suddenly could no longer shoot in the NBA. But even though I saw it, it didn't immediately go away. It took humbling practice, just a couple feet from the basket, form shooting hundreds of times a day to finally rehabilitate my shot. But eventually I got there. And what that experience taught me is that letting go of control ironically often leads to better results. When I focused on what I could control, up until the ball left my fingertips, it went into the basket a whole lot more often. And the same is true of everything we do. Because I'm only focused on the art that I create and how meaningful and raw and authentic it feels to me, and not what the perception will be once I put it out there, I've been able to make art that resonates with more people and build a beautiful queer community online that has honestly been life-changing. At the same time, when you do truly let go of the control of the outcome is no longer as meaningful. When I first came out, I would have been so impressed by some of the changes I've made, like being confident in my nail polish, wearing mostly women's clothes, the haircuts that I give myself that are a little bit softer and more feminine. But it's not this achievement that I'm working toward like it used to be. It's just another step. It's something that I hope that everybody, whether they're in their own gender journey or some other journey of personal discovery, personal development, can find. Because when you find that sense of peace, the outcome, what other people think, none of that matters.